Looking at trigonometry again, and here we're going to start looking at the sine rule. So we've talked about the cosine rule, and now we will look at the sine rule, and in this case specifically to find the sides of a triangle. So the same ideas will apply where we have little numbers or little letters of A for sides and big letters for angles. And similar sort of situation here, where we want to go about trying to solve parts of a triangle where there are some bits that are unknown and some that are. Now the rule that has been given to you, and will be given to you on the test, is little a over sine A is equal to little b over sine B. And it's just a ratio comparing these two things. So, like we've done before, first thing that we'll want to do is label the unknown with a little a, because we're looking for sides here. So if I look at this diagram triangle, the unknown here is an x, and I'm going to call it a little a. Now from there, we want to label all the others. And remembering that little a will always be across from big A. And then here I've got another angle and another side, so I'm going to call this guy B, and that means 100 is going to be angle B. Step number 3 will be to put into rule. Now here, if we go ahead and put it into our rule, we're going to have little a is over sine of big A, which is 40, is equal to little b, which is 12, over sine of b, which is 100. And that's actually putting it straight into the formula. Now what we have to do here is a little bit of rearranging to actually solve the problem. And if algebra kind of freaks you out, you could possibly memorize exactly what you have to do, and I'll write that down in a minute. But what we're looking for here is little a, and that's little a is divided by sin of 40. So if I want to undo a divide, I can actually times to the other side. So I could write this as a is equal to 12 times sin of 40, all divided by sin of 100. And if you plug this into your calculator, you'll actually get the length for little a, and we will find that little a is equal to 7.83 centimeters. So that thing that you could memorize if you would like to, if you have a hard time trying to rearrange things, is that little a, if you plug it in like we've done here, will always be equal to little b over sin b times sin a. So that's a little cheat sheet you could put for your, a little cheat note you could put for yourself on your formula sheet that you could memorize to help you solve the problems. And one thing I'm going to point out here is that on the formula sheet for the test, sometimes they include all three in here as well. C over sin c. And you don't necessarily have to use that information, but what you can do is kind of ignore it, kind of cross that one out, and just pay attention to the a and the b. If you're only dealing with two sides and two angles, that's the way you can go. But if you're in a situation where you actually have to find more than that, you might end up thinking about labeling b and c and a all throughout the triangle. But to keep it simple, we'll just think about the two sides and the two angles that we're looking for or that we know. So let's take a look at a second example. In this case, first thing I want to do always is label what I don't know with the appropriate letter. So here I notice that x has been given to me, and I'm going to call that little a. So little a will remind me that if I look back across to the other side of the triangle, I will find the angle for big A. And then to help simplify things, going clockwise, I might call that guy little b. And now to be tricky here, they've given us two angles. They've given us the 29 degrees and the 21 degrees, and we have to figure out, well, which one's the big B. And that's just a reminder for us that it's always going to be across the triangle from the side labeled little b. So in this case, we can actually ignore the 29 degrees. It's not really important to us. So starting with what we know, just write the formula here. We can plug in the information that we've got, and if you would like to, and you prefer this way, you could actually memorize that if you want, and call that b over sine b times sine of big A and put that into your calculator. So plugging it in, little a is equal to little b, which is 18, over sin of 21 times sin of 130 for big A. Now it doesn't really matter, I had it previously drawn with the fraction bar underneath the whole thing, but it doesn't really matter which way you do it. It'll work out either way in your calculator. So in this case, if we plug that in, little a actually equals out to be 38.4 centimeters. So here we have 38.4 centimeters. And one more example. Let's take a look at this guy. Again, two angles given to us, two sides, one we don't know, one we're looking for. So again, I'll label the one I don't know as A. And immediately from there I know that the angle across from it is going to be big A. Then moving around to label the next thing little b. Oh, and here they're being extra tricky. They only give you one other angle, so you might think, oh, that must be big B, but remember, big B has to be across from little b. So what rules do you guys remember about triangles? How could we figure out what the angle, what actually size angle for big B up there? Now if you remember, there's 180 degrees in a triangle. So if we take 180 degrees minus 105 for angle A, minus the 30 degrees that's been given to us for the other angle, we will get 45 degrees. So we know that big B is equal to 45 degrees. And now I can plug in. So using my shortcut formula, A is equal to little b, which is 20, all over sin of 45, sin of big B, times sin of A, which is 105 degrees. And if I plug all that into my calculator, I will get 27.3 centimeters. So again, just remember, there's 180 degrees in a triangle. If they don't give you the correct angles, you can always use that to try to figure out what the missing angle would be.